All right, what is going on? Welcome back to the Optimistic Fan Club. I don't know if this is the podcast, if it's the show. It's definitely not live, but we are coming to you unedited. So bear with me in case there's any slip-ups. And yeah, just like right off the bat, let's jump into it. Today we're going to be talking about Shedeur, the media reaction after he goes in the 5th round, and why I really believe that you know, I love jumping on the talking heads in the media, and they have just done a complete 180 flip on all of this stuff since it's gone down. So I just want to try and expose a little bit of what's going on there, because you can't let them get away with shifting the narrative, because believe me, it is shifting big time. So we're going to be talking about that. Going to be talking about some of the Browns' other picks, who I'm really excited to see. My top 3 out of really only 5 guys, or 6, I'm forgetting. But then also really touching on one of the most important things in the Browns room right now, their offensive line. That's the big question mark. That's a big reason for some of the people's in the media's displeasure with the Browns draft, I guess you could call it, or why some people aren't reviewing it as highly, because after diving into some of those things, the contracts, the age, there's definitely some validity to it. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to finish off with some of this Bill Belichik and Shannon Sharpe stuff. So we'll save that stuff for the end, but let's get into it. So I consume Colin Cowherd, John Middlecoff. I love Albert Breer. I can't really stand Nick Wright. I can't stomach much of it, but you still see it coming across your feed on Twitter. But there are my certain staple people who I'm consuming on a regular basis. So I know when something they said 5 months ago isn't exactly lining up with what I'm hearing today. And Colin Cowherd's always the big one. And again, Uncle Colin, if you're watching, you know I love you, but got to keep it real here. He was saying 2 months ago, once Shedeur really started to slide down in some of the big board rankings or in certain draft projections, he was very public in saying, like, I don't believe the draft slide. I think that teams need quarterbacks. It's such a highly valued position. And I'm paraphrasing here, but that's the gist of what he was saying. Then he continually said, like, oh, when the first report came out about his bad meeting that he had, that he seemed indifferent and unimpressed by the people who were interviewing him, he was like, oh yeah, like, what's the big surprise there? The Giants haven't had it figured out since Eli Manning. The Browns have been a complete S show, as he likes to say, and the Titans. So he was making excuses on behalf of Shedeur Sanders, being like, of course he's indifferent, and of course he's unimpressed by these people who are trying to grill him. And justifiably or not, that was the position that Colin Cowherd was taking. And then finally, this is the big thing that everyone is now saying. So don't fall for this. Like they say, honestly, it's on Shedeur and his camp and his dad for overblowing where they thought he would go, for thinking that he was a lock first rounder, to give him this impression that he was better than he was. But this is the thing. It wasn't Shedeur's team. It wasn't Shedeur's dad. It wasn't Shedeur. All those people around him should have the highest belief possible in where he'll go and what he's going to accomplish. The people who are supposed to be interceding and then determining whether or not that value is there outside of the teams who are making the picks, like outside of ownership and front office executives and coaches, like people who actually work for NFL teams, that is up to the media. And let's not stand here and be like, oh, there's no one in the media who understands what's going on in drafts or evaluating quarterbacks. That's the other big thing people are saying now, like Joy Taylor, who, like, I'm sorry, get her out, doesn't know what she's talking about. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Joy, if you're watching. Don't worry. About 4,000 people at max are going to watch this video, so she won't see it. But this whole narrative that is being built, that it's like, no one knows how to evaluate quarterbacks on one hand. Then on the other hand, being like, well, the media has no clue what they're talking about. And then it's Shedeur's team and him and his dad who are overblowing his value. It's like every single outlet and renowned scout had this guy as one of the top players in this draft, like in terms of a top 50. And then when you factor in who that is as a quarterback, that immediately bumps you up into like the top 20 because of the value of the position. Like, it's just the way that it works. It's just the way that football works in general. So Matt Miller, who everyone believes to be a very well-educated and informed draft scout. Like, he was at Bleacher Report for a long time. I don't know where he is now. I think he might be at ESPN. Whatever. He's renowned. He knows what he's doing. He's been in the industry. He had Shedeur Sanders ranked as the number 25 overall prospect. Then Todd McShay, been in the industry forever, had him at number 19. Then there's outlets like CBS Sports that had him as the number 41. But then Fox Sports, the number 12 overall prospect. Then Bleacher Report, the number 18 overall prospect. Joel Klatt, extremely well-informed, former college quarterback, still in the mix, like one of the headline commentators and analysts for Fox, had him as the number 8 overall prospect. Then NBC, the number 19. Then PFF, number 45. And, they're much more analytical and this and that. So whatever. But 45, still top 50. And then 33rd team, which is kind of adjacent to PFF, had him at the number 36. That averages out to about the 24.78th overall prospect. Call it 25. He's the 25th overall average prospect from all of these well-respected outlets. And like, if you look at the people who I would say I would trust the most, would be Matt Miller, McShay, and Klatt, all have him within that top 25. So you look at that, and then you look at the things that Colin Cowherd came out and said, where he said he's not overrated. He specifically said he is not overrated. And Colin Cowherd has stayed on that wavelength in general, where he's like, I think like it's a good pick. It's extremely valued. But you're seeing this shift now after the fact because people go, he's a 5th round pick. He's going to have so much to prove. It's like, aren't we all agreeing that he was better than where he was picked? So he's not a 5th round pick. He's like anyone. It's like you have your opportunity, your foot's in the door. He's not a 5th round pick. He's not the 144th best player in that draft. And I'm not trying to sit here and be like, he's going to be Joe Montana or anything like that. I'm just someone who watched a lot of tape, all 22 tape, like 8 games of Shedeur from this past year. I watched a ton of them live too, so a lot of it was rewatching. You can see a guy who completes passes from muddy, bad pockets, who didn't have a run game whatsoever. Like, I talked about this on Patreon on Tuesday, so if you want more of these podcasts, there's going to be one coming out early every week on Patreon. This will be the free one, so we're getting 2 out a week. If you want the other one, join the Patreon, link is below. But what I was saying in that was, like, this is what we need to understand. Like Will Howard, who John Gruden was labeling potentially the best quarterback in this draft, comparing him to Josh Allen. Like, Josh Allen went to Wyoming. He didn't go to Ohio State. So what does that mean? It means that you had to elevate the people around you and make plays happen. You have to throw guys open. You got to extend the play because your offensive line is probably bad. You have to do so many things that will translate to being on a bad football team if you're a high draft pick. And in the case of the Browns, like last year, they were a bad football team. So he will translate better than a guy like Will Howard would if they were both thrust into the spotlight and had to start. Sure, Will Howard has more physical tools. He has the size, he has the running ability, the strength, whatever. But if you look at their college careers, it's like Ohio State rushed for almost 3,000 total yards as a team. His top running back, Quinshaw Judkins, had over 1,000 yards. They had 2 of the top 4 running backs in this draft on their team. They had an NFL-level offensive line with a first-rounder who went to the Chiefs. Other guys like Seth McLaughlin, like they have legitimate first-round and NFL-level talent on their offensive line. Then they have Emeka Boogie as a first-round receiver. Then, like, Carnell Tate is going to be a first-rounder. Jeremiah Smith is going to wind up being the best receiver prospect we've seen probably since I don't know when. Like, he could be one of the great NFL wide receiver prospects that we've ever seen. Like, who knows with that? We'll see how he finishes up his career. But the way he played as a freshman last year will lead you to believe it's going to be pretty lucrative and pretty good. On the flip side, Shedeur Sanders, top rusher, his top running back to help take the weight off of him, it's like less than 400 yards. As a team, they rushed for less than 900 yards. So you can't sit here and be like, yeah, you know, like he doesn't really have the size, but like he completes passes and he made his team a winner. And he threw for over 35 touchdowns and not many interceptions. So his touchdown to interception ratio is really good. And, you know, but sometimes he holds on to the ball too long and he takes unnecessary sacks. Like all those things can be true, but like, let's not be blind to why. Why? The offensive line, the run game, no tight end. Yeah, he had a good handful of receivers, but we all know it's like if you don't have the offensive line, you're not getting them the ball. What Shedeur was able to do, considering all of those variables, is impressive. And it's clear that it's like the media did have it right. This guy was much better than where he was picked. And the perception going in before all of like the off-field question marks and whatever that they're now blaming on him and his family and his team, which I'm sure they do shoulder a lot of the blame. It's like that's happening. But then if you go back and watch what the talking heads were saying, it was like, of course he should be able to deny where he wants to go. Like that was what the environment was. We're shifting on it now, and not we, but like the media is shifting on this, being like, oh my God, the gall for this guy to think he could have picked where he wanted to go. He was just never that good. Everyone was supporting this idea before. People were like, yeah, why would you want to go to the Browns? He's not going to go to the Browns. His daddy isn't going to let him go to the Browns. He wants to go to the Giants. He wants to go to this. He wants to go to that. That was all in the ether. And that was all publicly supported by so many people. And sure, maybe NFL draft scouts felt differently the whole time, but I honestly do believe most of it was ego-based. I think that the things that happened in the meetings definitely did happen, or to some degree did happen. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you think this guy can help your team and he's a leader, but just a different style of leader, and you don't have the balls to try and rein that in as another man, it's like, I don't know, should you be coaching an NFL team? And that's a big statement coming from me, but I'm just saying, it's like people are different. People lead in different ways. He had no off-field issues whatsoever. Is he cocky? Is he arrogant? Absolutely. I don't want a quarterback who isn't that way. You want Colt McCoy? Go get Colt McCoy. Do you want Brady Quinn? Then go get Brady Quinn. We categorize all these people as like, oh, he's a stand-up great guy, blah, 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 blah. Like we have all these ways of looking at different people, when in reality, all of the greats in every sport, in every industry, are fundamentally flawed human beings. Like, if you were doing a pre-draft report on Tom Brady and it was like, you could tell the future, like, oh, one day he's going to be engaged, but then he's going to cheat on his wife with a supermodel, and then he's going to start getting plastic surgery basically all over his body, and he's going to rearrange his face. That might draw a red flag. It's like, that's kind of a weird thing. It's like NFL scouts ask you weird questions. They're like, are you gay? Are you this? Are you that? You know? What sexual preferences do you have? It's like, those are the kind of things that they ask you. I'm sure if you dug into any of these guys, you could unearth something. But all of that to say, the big thing that people keep drawing back to is like, he was overconfident. And yes, in the instances that he was underprepared, that is a bad sign. That is a red flag. But it's also not Jamarcus Russell, who was given a DVD that was blank. And then they asked him, hey, did you watch that tape? And he goes, oh, yeah. And he never popped it in because there was nothing on the tape. So he would have known. It's like there's those kind of traps. Like that guy, the biggest draft bust in NFL history. Did he go number one? I think he went number one overall, or top 3 at least. It's like, that is something you should be concerned of. But he had all of this. He had the arm strength, and he had the size, and he had the this, and he had the that. It's like, I just don't doubt that Shedeur Sanders loves football. I don't doubt it. I think he needs to realign his priorities. But people trying to be like, this is another Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel was a drunk drug user. Maybe not at the point of getting drafted, but it was clear, like, this guy likes to party at that point. And he, like, holding up a brick of cash to his ear, acting like it's his phone. Yeah, like, that is not what Shedeur is doing. Does he like money? Does he do all these things? Does he, like, I don't know. When they're showing him partying, it doesn't seem like he's drinking. It seems like he's very well under control, and he likes to pick up the mic and rap. It's like, whatever. So I was just kind of going through all these old things. And believe me, not every one of these is going to be about Shedeur. It's just in the aftermath, and you're seeing how people shift along the way now, where they're like, oh, you know, it's just crazy. It's like no one had him up that high, and it's crazy that he believed that. It's like, you people who are now saying this are the exact ones who gave them the idea that he was better than he was and was going to be taken very high. What are we doing here? So that was just something that was very interesting to me. Interesting to me. Got that one out. So now I want to talk about some of these other Browns prospects. And I'm going to give you my top 3 players who I'm most excited about. And number 1 might shock you. Little clickbait for you. So number 3, Quinshad Judkins. I love Judkins. I love his style of play. I really hope it was the right Ohio State back, because, you know, you look at Travion Henderson, that guy's pass blocking is just elite, and hopefully Judkins has that ability, but I just like the workhorse style. I like that he puts his head down. I like that he goes to work. I like what's going on with Quinshad Judkins, and I think that he's definitely going to be the feature back in this offense. I think that Dylan Sampson will be a great contrast to him. But even though building off of that, like, even though Judkins is going to be the feature back in my eyes, like, I think what they're going to try and do is really try and, like, cap both of them to like 10, 15 touches a game. And it will be a more by committee approach. I think that for multiple reasons, like, you want to protect your investment. And I think that they want to keep these guys fresh for like over the next 2 seasons when they're going to make their run. Like, I don't think I think it's going to be very similar to like David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, in the sense where it's like, you look at one guy and you're like, why isn't he getting the rock every carry? But it's like, because once you get to the playoffs, once you get to late in the season, you want these guys to still be fresh and have a lot of tread on the tires. And I think that that really helps you, especially in your rookie season, because these guys have played 12, like max 15 games in a season before. Now it's like, if you are going to go to the playoffs, like, you're getting into the 20s, that's a big, big difference. So it's really good. But Quinshad Judkins, my number 3 guy on this roster from this rookie draft class, who I'm really excited about. Number 2, Harold Fannin Jr. Harold Fannin, like, we've talked about him at length, and I said this on the live show, I really do believe, like, my hottest take that I will make right now is that Harold Fannin Jr. will wind up having a better career with the Browns than David Njoku, which is a big statement to make, but I just think that he's a more natural catcher of the ball. I think that he's a better route runner, and I think that his giddy up from catch to moving forward is that little bit quicker that's going to help him create yards after the catch. Like, David Njoku is really, really great on contested catches, the balls that you think he's not going to catch. And then once he gets moving, like, if he catches a drag route, that's a hard man to start. But on other things, like when his back is turned to the defense and he catches the ball, it takes him a while to turn back upfield and get going again. I think Harold Fannin is the kind of guy who's like, you can throw him a hitch, you can throw him a ball in the flats, and he is just going to keep on moving for time. And I think he's a more sure-handed catcher. I just think at the end of it, it's like, statistically and like perception-wise, people will look at Harold Fannin Jr. and they're going to say, like, this is the dude. Like, this is the second coming of Ozzie Newsome. And David Njoku is going to be a great footnote in that. But it's like, if you remember, if you're old enough, like Monta Ellis in Golden State and Steph Curry. It's It's like Monta Ellis was the dynamic dude, and they wind up trading him later on for a younger guy who's, not necessarily like as much of a physical freak, but turns out to be one of the great players of all time. And I'm not saying Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be that. I just feel like the dynamic of like having like an established person who's really talented, and then you wind up making a gamble on a younger guy with a similar-ish skill set, but who's much more dynamic when you peel back the layers. And once they develop, I think that that's what Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be. And then number one, which this one might shock you, obviously Mason Graham. With the blue chips, it's kind of hard to be like, I'm so excited. It's like, you just know he's going to be good. Or and if he's not, it's just like an all-time draft bust because of how high he's taken. Carson Schwessinger, the 33rd overall pick, linebacker. Like, this guy, like, I just keep getting pumped up whenever I'm watching his highlights, whenever I'm seeing anything from him. The guy's neck is like out here. The instinct that he plays with, like at the high end, if you could get 3/4 of the way to Luke Kuechly, you have your franchise linebacker for the next 10 years, and who I honestly think will wind up being the signal caller and the captain of this defense. Because Myles Garrett is the captain of this defense. It's kind of just like, hey, you're the best player and you give us the most consistent production. You need to have a voice in this locker room, do it. Where I feel like Carson Schwessinger is like a walk-on at UCLA who winds up becoming the 33rd overall pick in the draft, becomes the captain of his team. I think that he's going to step in Cleveland and will very quickly command the respect that is needed. I think like the natural leadership, the work ethic will command respect, and he's going to be able to police this unit. Like, I think that he's going to have that kind of impact within the first 2 years of his career in Cleveland, where he's going to go out there and it's going to be clear who they turn and look to in a moment where they need to rally the troops, where they need a big stop. Not only is going to be able to get his guys in line to be able to do it, but he's going to be able to execute it himself, whether he's blitzing, stopping the run, instinctually making plays. I'm just so excited for this guy, and I think that an off-ball linebacker, an inside linebacker, has been so lacking in Cleveland for so long that it just gets me very excited for what is to come with all of that. So that's my top three. Let me know your top three in that order. And then now we got to talk about this, the Browns O-line. So I was diving through it because a lot of people were like, I don't really like the Browns draft because they didn't address the offensive line enough. And I was like, yeah, but it's like Teller is still like a really, really good player. Bitonio is on the end. You got to let that guy go until he says he wants to go. And Posich is a solid center. Then DeJuan Jones, the injury concerns are concerning, to say the least. Jack Conklin at right tackle, he seems that he's gotten over that, knock on wood, and he's under contract for a while, and he's still young enough. But very quickly, this offensive line is eroding and will erode after next season. So, let's jump into this. Wyatt Teller, his contract is up after 2025. He will be 31 this season. Joel Bitonio's contract is up after 2025. He will be 34 this season. Ethan Posich, he's going to be 30, and his contract is also up after 2025. That leaves you interiorly with Zach Zinter and Luke Weipler. Weipler has been injured all of his time with the Browns. Zach Zinter stepped in and got completely dog-walked by the competition and looked underprepared, undersized, understrengthed. I think a lot of that can change, especially with the new offensive line coach. I think Andy Dickerson was really not great at his job, or else these guys would have been upset when he left, and they weren't. But that's very concerning. And then DeJuan Jones, he's going to be a free agent in 2027, and then Conklin in 2028, but he'll be 34 at that time. So you're going to need a left guard. And that might have been something where it's like you would have gone out and got Tate Ratledge at some point in this draft, like a guy like that. However, you do have the Bears offensive guard, and this is off the top of my head, so I don't remember, but he is going to be there. He's only on a 1-year deal, though. So they're going to have to get him enough playing time to be able to determine if he's worthy of bringing back and signing to a long-term extension, which is like, I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. So that leaves you with a big hole there. Zinter, you hope, can be the right guard of the future. Or if Wyatt Teller signs an extension, you kick him over to the left side. But then Weipler, we have no idea what we have there because Posich might be commanding a much bigger paycheck. And with the cap obligations still dealing with Deshaun Watson, it's like, who knows if you're going to be able to pay Posich what he deserves, because he's been the kind of the center point, the attack point of what has been a good offensive line for the most part of him being a part of the Browns. Last year, obviously very different, but that leaves you with a ton of holes. And this is what concerns me about that, is that I don't want to have to use all of that draft equity that they've gained in those first 2 picks of the first round next year on offensive linemen. That is where we need to attack skill players, great receivers. And if neither Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur work out, a quarterback. So real quick to interrupt, just want to shout out Pumpkinhead. If you guys want to buy one of these tees, the link is below. These are all designed and created by yours truly. So if you want to support the channel in kind of like a back channel way, head over to that, buy them. We got medium, large, extra large, shipped directly to you. Free shipping too. Forgot to mention that. So hit us up, get one of those, join the Pumpkinhead crew, and rock out with your boys. Okay, back to the show. So ultimately, this is the problem. DeJuan Jones has been good, but he's been injured, season ending his first 2 seasons. Luke Weipler, we think he could be pretty good, missed his whole rookie season. Then Zach Zinter played, questionable season. We're going to have to see if he can make the steps and improve and become a pro. I would bank that he will. He was also coming off of a big injury, so maybe that had something to do with it in his rookie season. But still unproven and unknown. Bitonio's going to retire. Posich, we don't know if they'll re-sign. Teller, you hope that they'll re-sign, but again, like, he's creeping into his mid-30s once they're going to have to extend him after this year is up. And then Jack Conklin, who you're just really hoping stays healthy because he had a good season last year. So that leaves the Browns, like I said, with so many questions and holes along this offensive line after 2025 that you could be in the position where you're going to have to 100% overhaul your offensive line with all of your picks, which could potentially leave you missing out on great pass catchers. And that's going to be the next big thing that this team has to address, because the Deontay Johnson signing, we talked about that in the Tuesday Patreon episode, which is linked below. But that's a 1-year rental, and you don't even know if it's going to work for this year. It's like the core pieces going forward are going to be Harold Fannin, Dylan Sampson, Judkins, Judy, and Njoku. He's going to have to get another deal at some point, and I really hope that they bring him back, because I think him and Fannin together are going to be great. But like, again, he's nearing the back third of his career. And then out of that, it's like your offensive line. It's like Jack Conklin is the only promised one out of all those guys, like relative to all of their positions in their career. Him, and then you really don't know. So it's like you could have to completely overhaul the offensive line while also needing to address receiver and quarterback next year. So hopefully quarterback is figured out with either Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur. And hopefully Zach Zinter and Luke Weipler can make that leap, because if not, it leaves the Browns in a very tough position going into the following season. And with that, let's finish with this. So obviously all this Bill Belichick stuff has been really dominating the news cycle post-draft. So if you don't know, he's 70 plus years old and he's dating a 24-year-old, and she now has an $8 million real estate portfolio. And there's all these weird LLCs and all this stuff going on. And this is all public knowledge now because they had this awkward, weird CBS interview. Probably already knew all of that, but I look at that, and then what's going on with Shannon Sharpe right now. And if you don't know what's going on with Shannon Sharpe, just give it a quick Google. I was talking to my wife this morning, and I'm 29. And I was just thinking, it's like, maybe I'm a little bit different than most guys. It was like, I wanted to be married younger. I wanted to have kids younger because I want to enjoy my whole life with my wife and with our kids and be able to be young and healthy throughout all of that. Some people, especially in the coaching industry, in the sports industry, you have to give up a lot of that time early on in your life because there's so much moving. Like, you're so dedicated to your job. Like, when I played football in university, the amount of time that the coaches spend in the office and away from family is wild. Like, I had an offensive coordinator who was engaged and his wife left him because, I don't know exactly why, but I'm assuming most of it was because, one, he was miserable because we sucked. And two, you're literally never home. Like, you're there 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., 10 p.m. every single day. And then once the season's over, you're recruiting. You're doing all these things. With an NFL coach, I think it's a little bit different because the recruiting element isn't there, but it's like you're dealing with free agency. You're dealing with a ton of stuff. So I think that ultimately, though, limits you early on in your life to be able to have a relationship. I think the same thing could be said for a professional athlete in the case of Shannon Sharpe, where it's like early, if you're just one of those people who wants to focus, you want to have your fun, you want to sow your wild oats, whatever you want to call it, you do you got to do your thing. But once you're like 40 years old, if you have not settled down, if you have not found a wife or like tried starting family, like, that is really, really weird to me. And especially in the case of Shannon Sharpe. And yes, it's legal. It's all this stuff. Like, we're not debating that, but it is so odd to me to not want any sort of regularity, to not want to share a life with another person, and then to like have your life and your name tarnished because you're dealing with immature, extremely young, extremely younger than you people. Like, in the case of Shannon Sharpe, you could call it extortion, you could call it whatever it is. The point is like, you didn't make a smart move. You didn't protect yourself and your investments and your assets and your public image. And, I've been quoting Robert Greene a lot in this, but let's open it back up really quick because this is very related to what's going on here. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is the cornerstone of power, though through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Make your reputation unassailable. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by opening holes in their own reputations. Then stand aside and let public opinion hang them. So that's very cutthroat, obviously. But the point is, when you're dealing with people who wind up getting a hand in your pocket and who if you give them reasons to ruin you, they will. And that's the case with Shannon Sharpe. And then with Bill Belichick, that's a guy who was married and then cheated on his wife and was like, in the Ian O'Connor Belichick book, he's out there buying like his side pieces, houses, and like all this weird stuff that's going on. And it's very odd when you compare that to like who he is within the context of football, being such a hard-nosed, detail-oriented guy. So to do that and then to move on and then to like leave his girlfriend that he had who like seemed much more suited and within his age range to then be with someone who's 50 years younger than him is so unbelievably weird. So I just tell you, if you're thinking about leaving your wife and you're 50 plus, don't do it. Figure out your problems and have a nice, happy life. And don't create all these problems for you and your family, because it might look nice from the outside in, but I'm telling you, that dude is in hell now. And he's probably got someone in this Jordan Hudson chick who has a lot of intel and information to the point where like he's paralyzed and can't do much about it. So it's just very weird. And I think that the old horny middle-aged guys just about the creepiest thing that you could be. So don't try and live that lifestyle. And maybe I'm being a little preachy here, but still, like Shannon Sharpe, that is a bad look, and it's empty. So I just wanted to touch on that. So maybe no one cares, but that's all. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Check out pumpkinhead.shop. Check out the Patreon, and we will see you guys next week.